Most IELTS preparing students make the same 3 mistakes. You don't need to go to the classes to fix this. Here's how you can fix it. My name is Surit Bhattrai. I've been doing this for the last 16 years and I'm happy to help you out. Most of the times, students score low in their IELTS test not because they have very bad English or they did not learn well in their high school. No. This is because you don't know the exact strategy to crack that exam. Given a good strategy, IELTS can be equally better for students who are looking to study abroad, even easier than most other tests in the market. Let's first understand what IELTS is. International English Language Testing System, or IELTS, is the standardized English language test that is going to help you prepare for your studies in any other country. Unlike other tests, IELTS is a little superior because one, the writing section in IELTS is academic based, so it is going to help you prepare for assignment writing or essay writing at your university level. And the speaking test in IELTS is actually person to person, in person, which normally helps you prepare the actual simulation of talking to a person or to a friend or to even the visa immigration officer. There are two types of IELTS exam, IELTS Academic, which is for students who are looking to study further, and IELTS General, which is for anyone who's looking to migrate to a different country. So this is mostly for migration purposes only. Even though there are two different distinct types of IELTS, the internal modules are the same. The pattern can be a little different, but the modules are the same. What that means is you will still be doing listening, reading, writing, and speaking, these 4 modules within this test. All of these modules are individually marked at a high score of 9. So all of these individual modules have full score of 9 and starts at 0. But when you get your score, you'll also get individual score along with a overall score. So depending on what kind of score you want, say for example 6.5 overall with no band less than 6, you can then prepare accordingly in your IELTS test. Please remember, IELTS test does not guarantee your visa, it does not guarantee your scholarships, it does not guarantee your admissions into the university. So my recommendation is take it lightly. Only prepare for the score that you are required to do. Don't give yourselves that extra trouble because you already have studied enough at this point. The entire test finishes in about 3 hours. 1 hour of reading, 1 hour of writing, about 40 minutes of listening, and about 20 to 25 minutes of speaking. Overall, it's about 3 hours of total time. Let's start with listening. In the listening section, one of the most important parts is to identify the keywords. Here's where most of the students struggle. They don't understand what the person is saying because they've not looked at the questions. You always get some time to look at the questions before the actual listening audio starts. So, here are the 3 things that you need to do. Number 1, start looking at the questions to identify the markers or the keywords. Underline them or keep them mentally so that you can then expect your answers, which is number 2. You can start expecting answers when the audio comes in. And number 3, watch out for distractors. Distractors are those specific audio parts which is said just to distract you. For example, when someone says, hi, I'm going to be there at 9. Oh no, I think I'm going to be stuck in traffic. I'll probably be there at 9:15. So the 9 that was said before is actually a distractor. The actual answer is 9:15. Now, besides these 3 tips, what you need to understand is spellings matter. So if you are really bad at spellings, I recommend you start practicing them. You have to improve on your spelling. Number 2 is if you lose out a question, don't worry about it. Just make sure you continue to the next one. You will get some time to recoup of that time and then to write down the answers later as well. And do not leave anything blank. There's no negative marking, so it only helps if you fill everything. Do not leave anything blank. Let's move into the reading section. In the reading section, you'll be provided with 3 different passages. Passage 1, 2, and 3, which increases in the order of difficulty. Mind you, even though passage number 1 is the least difficult and passage number 3 is the most difficult, you are still expected to finish all 3 passages and 40 questions out of these 3 passages in 60 minutes. Now, a plain calculation will tell you that you would give 20 minutes for each passage, right? But since you're doing the least difficult as well as the most difficult within the same time frame, 20 minutes equally across these 3 passages is not fair. Normally, my recommendation to my students is that you need to do 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and 25 minutes for first, second, and third passage. That way you can segregate the time properly. The most difficult one gets the most time, the easiest one gets the least time. What are the tricks for this? Just like in listening, you also have to identify the keywords in reading. Now, most of the passages follow a very simple principle. The first few lines will have the main idea of the passage. So make sure that you read those and then understand what follows. Once you identify both of this, then you can quickly read through the passages. Speed reading is a must here. For all of my students who normally come to me for IELTS classes, what I normally recommend is you start reading a book from day one of my IELTS class, because that gives you an idea. Most of the times we forget how to read. We've been reading for schools and universities and colleges that we forget reading for fun. So you need to start reading for fun as well. That way you can develop your speed reading habits as well. And please note, just because you are a student of science or business does not mean you will get passages from that specific faculty or that specific zone. You will get passages from newspapers, from articles, from magazines or reports. So it can come from a wide range of places. So you have to be ready with everything. A good idea is to start reading English newspapers every day. Just go through it, sniff it, and then identify whatever's happening. One of the most important, besides the keyword hunting, the most important trick that you can do in reading is scanning and skimming. The way it is done is, when you look at a passage, you do the scanning part, which is identifying the names, the dates, the main information, maybe it's a place, whatever it is. You identify that, underline it, thinking that this is something that's going to be important. Then you do skimming. Skimming is taking out the main parts from each of the paragraph. What does this paragraph mean? What is the main essence of this paragraph? Once you do this, you scanned, brought out the names and the most identifying features, and then you also did the skimming, which is you brought out the main core reasoning of each paragraph. That way it's going to be very easy for you to attempt the question. Let's move on to the writing part. In the writing part, there are two different tasks, task 1 and task 2. Task 1 is a smaller essay of sort where you are supposed to describe a trend, a chart, a table, an image, or process, whatever it is. Here, one of the most important parts that you need to identify is the word count, which is 150 words, and the fact that you are supposed to compare between two. So whenever you are doing processes or whenever you are doing before and after, you have to make sure that there is a comparison. Even with the charts, you have to compare between the two. You are supposed to use specific vocabularies that you will find on the YouTube as well, and your teacher or your books will tell you what those vocabularies are. You will find those vocabularies and you have to use those for task 1. Let's move on to task 2. The task 2 is a longer academic essay. This is more descriptive essay. So you have to write a whole academic essay for a specific topic. What you want to do in all of this is make sure that your essay topic is something that you already understand. Take 2 minutes of your time out of this 40 minutes that you get for your task 2, and then you sit down and make some notes in your head or on the paper if you have to. When you do this, it will be a lot easier for you to go ahead and then write the whole essay. I'd like to follow the principle PEE. I know it sounds funny, but you like to follow the principle PEE. This is a very simple paragraph writing principle where the first P stands for the point. E stands for explanation, and the last E stands for example. So for each paragraph, you'd want to do the main points, the explanation of that point, and then the example. Once you do this, this becomes a very good, very well written academic essay. So that way you can explain anything. And a good trick that I normally tell my students is to use the WH questions if you don't know how to start or if you don't know how to write the essay. Say, for example, you have a question. Why is the pollution in my city affecting a lot of people? Or how can you control it? So if you don't know how to start it, always start in the body paragraph. Always start it with a WH question, which means ask yourself what the problem is, how do you solve this, where this problem has affected, and then start making a couple of sentences for each of these WH questions. You'll be able to get a small paragraph that is going to help you understand your points better. Remember, this is a timed exam, so you have to be very, very careful. And this is the only part where you can be penalized if you do not write above the word limit. For both section 1, task 1 and task 2, there's a word limit. For task 1, it's 150 words. For task 2, there's 250 words. If you write anything less than that, you will be penalized. Also, if it is found that you've written an AI-based answer, if you've plagiarized your answers, you will be penalized as well. Let's move on to the last and the most important part, that is speaking. In speaking, there are 3 different parts of your test. The first part is your general introduction questions, where they'll ask you, they'll warm you up so that you can start speaking. Very simple. There'll be about 10 to 15 questions at tops, and then it's just basic questions. How did you get here? How many people are there in your family? Where do you live? All of these jazz. Number 2 is where students struggle the most. This is the cue card or topic card round, where the examiner will give you a paper with a question written, and then you get 1 minute to prepare for it, and you have to speak for 2 minutes. This is almost like an impromptu speaking session. So they're not looking to see if you are grammatically accurate to the point. They're just looking to see if you can make sense of what you're saying, if all of your answers have a coherent way or a coherent description. So you need to make sure of all of that. In the third part, which is part 3 of speaking test, they're going to ask you related questions from the topic in part 2. So these are further discussion questions. They want to see if whatever you said in part 2, can you hold on to that logic? Once you do all of this, then you would have finished your IELTS test. But please remember, your IELTS test is not a measure of how amazing your academics are. Neither is the IELTS a measure of if you will be able to get your visa. Yes, you will need the minimum required score for you to get into any university or any immigration, but anything beyond that is not going to create a huge help for you to get that visa, to get that university admission. And please remember, this 1 week or 4 weeks course, wherever you do for your IELTS class, IELTS preparation class, this is not going to improve your English. It will take you a very long time to improve your English language. For a normal student who would have completed their year 12 or a bachelor's degree, you would have already studied about 12 to 16 years of English in your life. If you've not improved so far, it is going to be very difficult for someone to help you improve that within the next 1 month. So IELTS preparation classes are basically strategic classes where you learn about the tips and tricks that I just told you, and even more for your exams. If you need more information on IELTS or need help with booking your IELTS test, you can always contact Geico Consultants. We also do IELTS classes, so you can always reach out to us if you need more help. See you around.